Hello, all. Welcome to Event Registration Panic, What Actually Works. This is the first in a series of TEMBO Talks, and we will be joined today by a panel who will introduce themselves in a second. If you have any comments or questions, please include them in the chat and we will answer them as we go. Welcome to our first TEMBO Talks of the season. This is Event Registration Panic, What Actually Works, and I'm joined by an amazing panel today. If you could please introduce yourselves. We'll start with Rikki.
Great. I'm Rikki Bhachu, so I'm doing the exhibitions marketing at Closer Still at the moment, but I've previously been at companies like Easy Fairs, GovNet, Mark Allen Group, and I am, I've always been in large-scale trade show marketing, so I'm always that guy that was refreshing the website that's showing our registration numbers continuously, but we'll talk about why that's not the best thing to be doing today.
Lovely. Thank you. Tamar?
And I'm Tamar. I'm the CEO of Gleanin. So I am really here as a gob on a stick. I was actually going to put that in as my job title because it's been a very long time since I marketed or was involved in events, 15 years or so. So I'm not the most qualified person to speak about this. Ricky's at the coalface, but I do remember what it was like. But obviously, trends and things have changed. But I've got some opinions, so I'll chime in with those, take them as you find them.
Absolutely, and very valuable they will be too. Thank you. And Helen?
Hi there, so I'm Helen. I'm Marketing Director at TEMBO. I've been in the events industry 2 decades now, so I've seen a lot of change, a lot of panicked campaigns, and we've had to roll our sleeves up and get stuff done to deliver the audience. So I've got lots of experience there, particularly as at the agency at TEMBO, we work with lots of different clients, and a lot of the time they kind of parachute us in when help is needed, and we're here to help.
Indeed, thank you very much. And I am Kate Disley. I'm CEO and founder of TEMBO, and I'm here to moderate and ask questions today. And I might dip in with a few opinions of my own. It's been very long in the tooth. So we're going to start, Rikki, with our first question. I'm going to come to you. What is the earliest metric that tells you a campaign is in trouble? And I suppose also we know that booking patterns are changing. How do you know whether it's a booking pattern change or something we really do need to panic about?
Yeah, I think booking patterns have changed across everything. I mean, funny stories, even at the recent Confex we went to, it seems like even us event professionals ourselves are registering a lot later, if not the week of or the day of. So I think the earliest signal is engagement. It's the quality of your engagement. So your emails, how are they doing? Are they weak in engagement? Is there interest in your speakers? Because we're putting stuff out before we go live with registrations, our socials, anything that we put out. We can tell if it's getting the eyeballs or the interactions that it should be. Are people sharing it more? I think at that point, if there's a value to what you're talking about. Are you leading with benefit-led copy and content? Are people going to get something out of it? Because that's what they want now. They're struggling to get out the office more than ever. They can't find the budget to do it more than ever. So if it is engaging, if it is of benefit to them, or if there is a value there, then you'll see that in their engagement before you even go live with registrations. Before they can even say, yes, I'm attending, you'll know if they're interested. So it's looking at what you're sending out and how people are reacting to it, I think is the first metric you should be looking at before you start tracking registrations.
Indeed. I've never really thought about it before, but I suppose with the conversion campaign as well, just checking how your emails are doing on the conversion campaign. It's not something we really pay a lot of attention to, is it? But it would be indicative of how interested people actually are as well. Tamar, do you have anything to add?
Well, I would just echo what Rikki said, really, in that I don't think there's any getting away from the fact that booking trends are people are booking later in the day. I can just tell you from my own behaviour, when I'm planning to go to an event, I might be going back and forward to the event website quite a few times before I actually take the dive. I've heard metrics like, the closer you book to an event, the more likely you are to show up, and that's also a really important measure. So there's some good things about it, even though it's quite a scary ride. But I would definitely be looking at engagement, how much interest there is in your content. And hopefully most event marketers we are obsessed with conversions in this industry. About last touch attribution is the kind of often the only thing that anyone's ever looking at. But engagement is so important, because if there's interest in your content and you're feeding great content out to your marketplace, people are engaging with that, listening to your stuff, reading your blogs, checking out your speakers. The fact that they haven't booked yet, you shouldn't take as a bad sign. They're researching and they're selling themselves into the event. Doesn't matter what your emails, kind of your timetable doesn't really matter to them. They're on their own timetable and they're researching whether this event is something they should take the time out. So engagement has to be number one.
Yeah, I could not agree more, actually. And for the most recent event that I went to, I registered whilst in the queue. So great event professional I am. Helen.
So I would add definitely engagement. So looking at socials, and also looking at what your exhibitors are doing. So are your exhibitors really excited about the event? Are they sharing the fact that they're going to be present? Are they putting out a bit more than just see me on stand, whatever their stand is? And I would say looking at the registered data and monitoring how that's doing is actually key, because I think there's two parts to booking someone into an event. It's the first part of getting them to register, and the second part of the journey, which sometimes we forget, is to get them to convert. So on some of the campaigns we've done, we will track open rates on our pre-reg emails. We will then look at if we can see someone's consistently not opening an email, we'll send a different campaign to them to see if they're still planning to attend. There's also different ways of reaching out to people. So you can use telemarketing or get people to call them up and make sure that they remember that they're attending. Because sometimes if you book really far in advance, you can forget, because 2 months from now, it seems like a lifetime. So we need to kind of make sure that we're speaking to people that are registered, giving them all the tools they need to get the most out of the event, and also giving them a reason to register, because with a lot of the events, there's no difference in benefit if you register 2 months out versus in the queue or on the train or in a cab before being at the event.
Agreed. Okay, so at the event, guilty. So if we know actually it is panic time, things are concerning, what are we looking for? Because sometimes obviously the onus comes back onto marketing and what we're doing, but often we can be a little hamstrung by the actual event itself. How do you decide, what the issue is and how you're going to fix it? I'm going to come to Rikki first again on that one.
I think for me, you should know pretty early. Let's say we have gone into registrations, if the right people are showing up, because the personas are there. Like we said earlier, they're engaging, but you can very early tell that what you're offering is for those people that have said yes to registering, because what you don't want to have is on the show floor overhearing a conversation that isn't relevant or isn't happening, because that's not good for your show. So very early, you start to see the right people are registering. I do agree, though, that those guys that register early don't convert as well. So I think we need to put more onus on value metric than a volume metric. But then it comes down to your conversion campaign and how you make sure that they are attending. So if the right people are saying yes to it, then how do we convince the right people to attend? Because what you don't want to have is a load of wrong people that do attend. So I think that's the focus there at the beginning, looking at who's coming through the door. And if you need to then make a reactive contribution, you can do that by being very proactive at the beginning, but knowing that by being proactive, you can be reactive to saying, oh, actually, we're not attracting the right people. So who are we missing? Okay, we've got X amount of persona A, B, and C, but we are lacking in the other ones. So how do we push those to get to those levels that we need? Because we've got a lot of exhibitors that want to see those people, and we haven't got them coming through the door right now. So that's when you need to make a move and make a decision.
Exactly. And I really like the mention of personas there. It just underscores how important it is to have those set up at the beginning, so you actually know what you're working towards and what good looks like as well. Helen, anything more to add there?
I would say one of the key things to think about is the plan that you put in place before you actually started working on the campaign, because sometimes we spend a lot of effort putting a really detailed plan together and it can get ignored and we're just kind of reacting to what's happening every single week. So making sure that we are implementing the plan that we've all agreed upon, and also making sure that we're not heavily reliant on email, because one of the things is when registration is not going as well as we would have liked, it's always really easy to jump on sending another email and then another email. And as we send more emails, we get diminishing returns from each one. We need to look outside of our database and look at what our partners are doing for us. Because with lots of events, we will have association partners, media partners, exhibitors. What are they getting out? What are they putting out? Have we made sure we've given them everything they need to promote the fact that they're present? And are we also following up with them? So if, let's say, we have media partnerships and they promise to do A, B, and C for us, are we making sure A, B, and C are done in the way that we need, that's delivering results? And what I've found with certain partners, that if you let them know, oh, we promised to get this email out for us, we gave you a track link, we've noticed that we've only got 2 clicks, I don't think it worked as well as it should have, can we give it another go? And a lot of the time people's egos and pride will say, oh yeah, it hasn't gone out properly and I'll send it out again, or I'll send it out to more relevant people. So I think it's also looking at what we're doing with people outside of their actual event team.
Agreed. And Tamar, do you just want to come in there, especially on, I suppose, the importance of the advocacy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would, let's assume that the value proposition work of the event's been done properly up front. You should get surprises with your marketing campaign, but you could get surprises if the communication of that proposition isn't right, but that's for another question probably. I couldn't agree more with Helen on the email. That's even back in my day, that was the first reaction, and as I understand it, it is almost no different now. It's like, if your registration is behind, the first and easiest thing to do is to send more email, and you really, more than ever, you are absolutely killing your list if you do that. You really shouldn't be doing that. It's hard enough to get people to open email as it is, and you abuse it, like, you know, if someone's not responding, it's the messages right, maybe yours not even landed, because we're all getting much cleverer at getting email that we're not particularly interested in out. You've got to find other ways to reach them. Sending more email is not the thing that's going to reach them. It's just going to make them unsubscribe. So I think we talk about decentralized marketing. So whether it's advocacy or whatever it is, looking at your partners is probably the key. So decentralizing your marketing means, instead of you always being the one to talk about your event, and there's when it's a brand talking about how great their brand is, no matter what they're saying, there's a little bit of course you're going to say that. So the more that you can decentralize those messages, the better. And that could be, you know, through your speakers and your exhibitors and that kind of thing, but also, like Helen said, through media partners, but also like ambassadors, and this should all be done early. Like, you're not going to be able to put this stuff in place at the last minute. It's not a last minute fix, but if you've got it all in place to begin with, and you've got a bunch of very connected, highly thought of, influential ambassadors, and I'm not talking about paid influencers, I'm talking about people that you've brought into the value proposition, they're involved in the creation of that. They're going to be people that can get your message out to the right people. And then I think you know, in terms of those people that aren't responding to emails, there's other ways to reach them, but you should definitely be trying other ways to reach them, not more email, please.
Yeah, with you on that one. It is like trying to bash people over the head, isn't it? Sometimes it
just doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
No, and it'll ruin it next time around. It's going to get even harder. So
yeah, and I think what normally happens is we finish a campaign and then forget about starting the next one, and then it gets to the weeks before registration launches, and you're trying to find partners and advocates and people. So closer still actually with the team currently, we don't launch Reg for another couple of months, but we've locked in all of our media partners, or at least the majority of them, so that we're not reacting when we are in crunch time, and that your relationships are bigger and better. And so I agree with everything Helen said, and make sure those people, your stakeholders, are all already bought in before you've even kind of pressed that launch button.
The other thing is maybe there's a bit of an education piece for leadership here in we're living in a different world and trends have changed, and I think that we really would love registrations to come in easily. Like, I can't imagine what it must be like now to be on the other side of the fence and the bulk of your registrations are coming in so slow or so late.
Yeah.
Especially paid event where you're, you know, that's a revenue driver, where it's almost sometimes too late to do it. Like, you don't know whether that's going to happen because you're reacting before your peaks. Is whether that education piece of like, what are we expecting to happen? Like, you can have this magical fantasy of how we'd love it all to like be happening 12 weeks out from an event, but what is the reality today, so that you can actually work out whether you are off track. Because otherwise I can see a scenario where people are just assuming they're off track and they're not off track, and then they're doing all these things that are quite damaging. Like, I heard Helen mention like telesales that are like, oh my God, well, I never take calls from anyone. So again, if you were hammering me on the phone and email, it would probably not be having a great effect on someone like me, because I hate speaking to anyone on the phone, and I don't take any call from anyone I've not heard of, because there's so much phone spam. So before you go into the like, oh my God, panic mode, something like, is it a panic? What are we expecting to happen and when? And I know it's scary to wait for the when, because if you're expecting the peak at 3 weeks out, you've got no time to make changes. But I do think there's a bit of like magical thinking of like, we want it all to happen at this stage, and when it doesn't, we're going to go into panic mode and like, got to get out of that. You've got to understand, is it a real thing?
I think audiences change quite quickly as well, and if you do, like I mentioned earlier, personas, sometimes getting on the phone to people is the best way of learning. So getting onto phone to certain personas and learning, oh, actually you get your messaging and you get your content through an avenue we don't even market on, whether it's, an example would be Reddit. We did a Reddit one for a recent event, and that was one of our daily spikes, and we'd never have used it before, and it was not part of the plan. So getting out on those phones, finding those little things out could change the way that we track what's going on, because we don't want to send as many emails out, so we don't see those spikes on those Tuesdays or Thursdays when we send. And so we need to slightly change that a little bit.
Yeah, it takes me back to my marketing exec days, where I'd be sat with a senior marketing person and trying to make up that we have a certain pre-reg number. Well, we must have this because we've got this over here, so we'll just say that we've got this. And this obsession with the pre-reg number, and as soon as the event happens, nobody cares about the pre-reg number. It's all about the on-site number. And I think I have two feelings about that. One is, actually pre-reg can be important because it is still data. It's data for next year. So I think sometimes people can be a little bit dismissive about it. But also, if what you're doing is just aiming for more numbers over and over and over again, the quality of those people is shocking, and they're probably not going to turn up. So it's just, it becomes a false metric. And I sometimes feel that's what happens with pre-reg all the time, as it's a bit of a false metric. Sadly, it's the only one not the only one we've got, but it's the key one, isn't it?
Yes.
So just kind of moving on from that, what happens if you're confident that everything that you've done marketing wise is spot on, and you suspect that what might be the problem is, I don't know, maybe lack of the right exhibitors, bad content program? How do you have that conversation internally without rocking the boat too much? Anybody want to take that one first?
Well, that's awkward.
Go on, Helen. You can do it.
I would say that it's really important that we, as marketers, we have really strong relationships with the sales team and the other departments. So while they're selling, I've worked on events where they'd sell to anyone. So you'd have people selling credit cards, you'd have massage companies, just random space fillers. They just wanted to get the revenue in. Now what I'm finding with the sales team is that they are bought into the event. They know that they want long-term sales, not one quick hit. So when they're kind of looking for exhibitors and making sure that it's people that are going to match the audience that we're going to deliver. And what can help is if marketing work really closely with sales to help them with some of their pitches, help them with some of those conversations, and provide them with information about the audience that we're going to deliver to make sure it all matches. And if we do notice that there are a few exhibitors that probably shouldn't be on there, we just need to have that conversation, because those people aren't going to have a great time, and they will find the person that sold them the stand and say, hey, I've got all this stuff here. No one's interested, and it'll be a bad time for them. So we kind of need to move away from the transactional selling and wanting to build relationships with the people that partner with us.
Rikki, anything to add?
Yeah, I agree. I think what needs to happen is when we speak to sales. So what we did was, as a task, was we did a procurement journey. So what's our visitor's actual procurement journey? And it's not to buy at the show. Some shows it is. Some are buying shows, but for this one I'm particularly talking about, it wasn't. It was more to get your name out there, because once that tenure was up, you might be the first person they think of for the next moment. And so it was about getting that message across, saying, look, this is a branding exercise. And so when they got there, they were like, we spoke to X amount of people, some people that were going to grow into be in a position of buying at some point, and they had a happier day because of that. And make sure that that right person came in, because if it is a company that just wants to get in there and sell cupcakes to everybody on that show floor, it's not going to work for them. But if it's something where they can work and build those relationships, like Helen says, then that's what we need to get across in the pitches that are happening, so that at the end, when we're trying to rebook, they're much funner, nicer conversations than someone is being beaten over the head continuously as they walk from stand to stand.
Tamar, anything to add on that?
No, I mean, nothing that you haven't said. So quality over quantity every time. Sometimes you go to shows and that selling's still going on because it's so divorced from the metrics of the rest of the show, of the event. If everyone's aligned on the value proposition, you shouldn't have those problems. And sometimes you still see salespeople being incentivized on the wrong. So you get what you incentivize, and if you're incentivizing people on new sales and reaching certain targets, they'll go out and get those sales. But you should want your long-term. Same for attendees. If you get the right attendees in, you should be aiming not just for one-time attendance where they walk away disappointed. You want them to come back again and again and again, and then your job's even easier next time. Easier event to sell to exhibitors as well.
Indeed. So thinking about the timing of when to panic, if you have a schedule on which to panic or not panic, when, Rikki, in your mind, on your tactical marketing plan, when is it that you would start to panic if Reg wasn't where you targeted it? How many weeks out?
So, I mean, the trends for some of the events I work on at the moment are honestly 6 weeks before the event is over 60%. So you got to think about, the more we get in at the beginning, the harder that conversion campaign will need to be, or the stronger it needs to be. So I think, yes, you should have a loose plan of what you want to hit, but and it is, done by, not by feeling, but by experience and by numbers that you've looked in spreadsheets and trends. So once that starts to go slightly out of kilter, it shouldn't be a panic. It should be a why. Why is that not happening? Oh, actually, it's because normally there's a meeting that people go to with one of our partners, and that's been moved by 2 weeks. So that's why we've not seen that speak by 2 weeks ago. So it's just learning those things, because if everyone starts panicking, it's only going to create a ripple effect and everyone's trying to either push too many emails out or try everything and anything. And so I think it's, as soon as you're slightly off track, why? If it's, I have no idea why this is, I can't understand why, then maybe again the next level and the next level. So I think about 50% into your campaign is when you should start then looking at how off track, or how, you should also look at if you're actually killing the numbers, because that's also a reason to be like, hold on a minute, why was I so off what I predicted? It's a great problem to have, but you might now be attracting, like we said earlier, the wrong person. And filling a room with 10,000 people, but you have only 2 good conversations, is still going to be as bad as filling it with half as many and doubling the amount of conversations. So I think 50% into the campaign is when I'd start looking at it, and also talking to your sales team. What are they hearing on the phone from people out and about? Oh, I've heard from people that the show's not what it used to be, or they're really excited to come to. So I think always talking to everyone in your industry, speaking, because if you get caught up in those numbers, in those figures, and in all of that, you can't see the wood for the trees. You aren't listening to your audience and your industry. And those are the people who are going to be telling you how they feel, what you should be doing, what you should feed back to content, what you should be feedback to sales. So midway through the campaign, have a look at your numbers, and then you start going month by month, week by week, as you get closer and closer. But those first few months, or first, let's say 2 months, are your learnings basically, and you can move depending on what comes at that point. But there's no need to panic at that point, I don't think.
Helen, what's your panic timeline?
I think it's essentially, it depends on the type of event we're doing. So if we've got a free to attend event, we can get registrations. We've got some events where the doubling point is 10 days before the event, which is just hearts pounding. We're really stressed, but they just decide to come in. We've also got our paid for events. So those typically will have a full year campaign, and in that we have weekly targets in terms of how many delegates we should be getting per week, as well as how many delegates we should be getting for each of the price changes. And if we start to notice that we're not quite hitting those numbers, we know that it's going to be a lot of work to catch up at the end. So we kind of think, okay, let's have a look at our messaging. Let's have a look at the people that we're targeting. Let's have a look at the content program and see where all the traffic's going to on the website. And if there are particular sessions that we didn't realize would be so popular, we need to work with those particular speakers and make sure we're going out to their network and then incorporating them into the comms that we've already got planned. I would say it's when you're deviating, as Rikki said, when you're deviating too much from either previous year's numbers or your target numbers, because we also need to factor in launches, because we're doing quite a few of those as well. So we don't have previous numbers to go by, we just have targets.
Yeah,
I think a free event compared to a paid for or delegate ticket event, is very different. And I love a large scale trade show, but my God, do they make you, your heart flutter a little bit towards the end. So I think, taking that into account, because the conversion comes from those paid events a little bit better. But whereas with our large scale free events, it is trying to get a lot of numbers in and hoping they'll convert well.
Agreed. Tamar, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I would just say that there's kind of, I think panic invokes desperate measures, and desperate measures can be conducive to bringing the wrong people in as well. Because when you could pay and bring lots of irrelevant people in, you can incentivize people. You've got to just hope your value proposition is already, all those good things have been set, and then there has to be a bit of faith about the fact that you have got a great value proposition, and you need to be telling the stories out there. I think the thing that probably people should put more effort into is the conversion. So once you've got a registration, the conversion piece, and that's probably the invisible side to leadership, is like what you're actually like. They're obsessed with registration numbers until the event's done. Then when you're on site, I used to get my attendance numbers, and that would be the thing. But you wouldn't move to that until we were there. But I think for marketers, that piece that you do to try and convince somebody that they've made the right decision and to make sure they show up is, because if you can get that up 5% year on year, if you can increase that by 10%, you're going to make such a difference to the actual experience for exhibitors, that potentially we put too much effort in the reg number and not enough into the thing. So I think doing things like, you can do PPC campaigns to your pre-reg, like don't keep hitting them with email, because that's the thing that everyone does. I've registered, stop hitting me with email now. But maybe use content with other attendees in it, do speaker videos, do create content and get people excited about your event. And then you can do things like thought leadership ads on LinkedIn. So they're not branded things, but they're real people talking about your event and just convincing people they've made the right decision and they should show up. So I think more onus on that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I think conversion campaigns are massive, but sometimes we do the same thing for all reg, rather than how did you come and hear about us? If they were PPC, or if then we should use a different conversion. They may not know enough about our show because they came in via PPC. So maybe it's a learning message that we use in conversion, and then that helps get them converted. Whereas an email, they're probably a little bit hotter. They know us a bit more. We can be less intense and maybe more targeted on your interest because of their persona that we've already got in our system. So you would like this, or if they came in for a media partner, how do we then? So I think sometimes splitting your conversions almost into where they came in like this, so we market like this, sometimes gets you a better conversion as well, because I completely agree. A better conversion rate over a couple more registrations is hugely more successful.
Yeah, Rikki, that's such a good point. So you all kind of agreed on kind of planning over panic, which I would second as well. I've been in a situation before. I don't know, and Tamar started to go on to this, which I'd like to explore a bit further. I've had a situation on more than one occasion where we get to 2 weeks out from the show, pre-reg is not where the leadership team would like it to be, and suddenly this money appears. The money that was cut from my budget at the beginning of the campaign. Here, have 20k. What can you do to bring in more registrations? The most infuriating thing ever. And if you are in the leadership team listening to that, please do never do this. But if someone gives you some money, or say you've stepped into a marketing campaign that is struggling to help out, what would be your go-tos to kind of move the dial a bit with limited time, limited funds? Rikki, going to come to you first.
Right. Well, it has happened many times. Unfortunately, the only thing you can really do at that point is put it into paid or digital marketing. There's very little other things you can do there, because you can't agree on advertorial campaigns with magazines that are out there, because they may not be on the right schedules that match that 2 weeks to go or however long to go. So what you do is you then look at what can I spend it on, and if it is spending it on PPC, then like I said a minute ago, then how do I make sure that PPC is the right audience but then convert? So you spend a little bit more on making sure that the plan before spending the money on your PPC is correct, maybe working with agencies or in-house, depending on what you've got, to make sure that everything is aligned correctly on that side of things, and then it's converting those. Because you can, I don't want to say it, but PPC is where you can kind of have paid registrations. If you want to grow your registrations, it's the quickest way to grow your registrations. But they could be good, and we could convert them, and they could be new where we haven't had email. But then it comes down to what you do when they do come in and register. Because I can give you a metric the night before the show saying, well, that 20k we spent got us thousands of people, and then the next day I'm crying into my pint because none of them turned up at the show. So then it's how you convert those PPCs that come in. So I think you spend that money, and then if it is a telemarketing company that you have a little bit of money, we'd love to have loads of money, we'd love to have it earlier, then that telemarketing company is calling all PPC to explain what the show is and say, hi, you've signed up for this. This is why it's relevant for you now. Come along. And that's how you spend PPC. Because I wouldn't pick the phone up, to a telemarketer who wanted to call me to tell me to register for a show. But if I've already registered for it via PPC, then maybe I'm a bit more engaged with like, oh, I did do that. Oh, great. Tell me how much more. So that's how maybe you have to then spend the money. Because you can't buy a new set of data that's going to be able to warm up at that point. You can't do, go and find a new associations or pay for a keynote that's going to be able to be marketed that quickly. So I think maybe the digital marketing side of things, if you do get given that money, is where I'd spend it potentially.
Tamar?
Oh yeah, I mean, my God, we're all agreeing here. We don't agree on in a moment, but there is only two things you can, well, three things, because you could send some more email out. Is you could chuck some ads out, spend all your money very quickly, and you could get some more registrations. But that type of campaign could get you numbers, but that it's not necessarily going to get you good numbers. And you could also do telemarketing. Like I've been given the extra money at the last minute, even back in my day, and the only thing we could do then was emails and telemarketing, and we would get these agencies just like randomly calling people from our database. This was in the days when people actually gave you their real phone numbers. Just so you know, I wouldn't be putting my real number on any reg form. So I suspect that could be quite an issue, is contacting people, finding those numbers, and then getting them to pick the phone up. But I would, with my PPC, I don't know if this is the right term, but I would be targeting that to known. So if I was going to throw money at paid, I would be throwing it at the right type, putting the right type of content in front of the people that are already warm. So they would be my pre-reg. Like you can do this now on LinkedIn and just like put your pre-reg list in, or your prospect pre-reg list in. So hopefully people that maybe came to last year's event or whatever, and serve them, not ads. Think about different content, because ads are still ads and they've ignored everything else you've thrown at them. So why are they going to suddenly respond? I would be doing stuff with, like Rikki said, what speakers of people being like engaging with content of yours, told you in the past on their reg forms, can you just feed them some kind of relevant content, try and see if you can get their interest up. I honestly, I think a lot of what we used to spend was just dead money. Like, for God's sake, invest it when you can make a difference. Don't pull that money out of your back pocket at a time where it's really going to be hard to get value out of it. Such a silly, short-sighted thing to do.
Yeah,
and yet have CPA at that point as well. It's and you've got someone who's coming for £1,000 per person. It's crazy when you were spending pennies on them, and now you've just
imagine what you could have done.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the frustrating thing. I think because a lot of the marketing activity is probably hidden under the net. Like the only metrics anyone cares about is like, here's your marketing budget. That's how many registrations we got out. What's the cost per registration? That's it. Until, and they're going to try and cut that. And it's like, you need to invest early so that your plans work. And I understand that it's not a magic. You don't just put money in and registrations roll out. It's every piece of marketing that you've got influences the rest. It's never one piece of marketing. It's never even that single email. It's all the other stuff you're doing, whether it's got a click through or a conversion connected to it. It all should work together, and you have to invest time and effort in there, and money.
Agreed. And and it still also has to have value to the person at the other end. Yeah,
you can't force people to do stuff they've got no interest in, no matter what you do or how much money you could pay them. £1,000, they still won't come. If they can't make it. It's relevant.
Exactly. Helen, anything further to add on that?
I think we've covered PPC, we've covered telemarketing. I think another thing to think about is resource, because one of the challenges with the marketing is that there's so many things we can do. It's an endless stream of different ways we can communicate with people, but sometimes we run out of time. So I would say on some of the campaigns we've done, we've taken time to kind of message people on LinkedIn. So that's something that is if you have some people that are registered that are really influential and you really want to get them there, we've done emails, they've seen ads. Sometimes a really quick personal message on LinkedIn would be something that could go down quite well. And another thing when we're talking about conversion is sometimes we need to think about the buying history someone's had with us before we send them the message. So if someone's been to the event 2 times, we don't need to send them the exact same conversion message as if this is the first time they're attending. So we kind of need to factor that in when we're looking at segmentation.
Totally. Really valuable advice, everyone. Thank you so much. I think we're out of time now, but really valuable insight from all of you. So thank you, Helen, Rikki and Tamar. And we will be sharing around some notes as well as the recording afterwards to anyone that hasn't seen it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.